Imagine being a Christian peasant in medieval Europe. How do you grow in your faith? You can't read the Bible because you can't read, and the only Bible is in the local chapel, and it's in a language you don't understand anyway. Likewise, the sermon is in a language that you don't know, and the priest isn't even facing you. So how do you grow? There's a Christian concept called the means of grace. The means of grace are the standard ways that God prefers to work through us, to give us grace and to grow us toward maturity. These are things like reading the Bible, prayer, attending services, acts of service, communion, like that sort of thing. And what exactly qualifies as a means of grace changes a little bit group to group. And this isn't saying that it's an exclusive list. God can and does use anything. But the means of grace are the standard occasions where God meets us most reliably. And for the medieval Christian, I would suggest that another means of grace is art. We poo-poo it today, but art in all of its forms was one of the major ways that the average Christian of the day connected with God's presence and knew God's love and majesty. Picture living in a small English village in the 1200s. You live in a world of greens, browns, and grays. The floor of your house is tamped down dirt, and the rest of your house is made up of wood, daub, and thatch, maybe some stone. You spend the days in fields and in forests, listening to rough voices singing rough songs. Paintings are mostly unknown in your life, and color is for the rich. But once a year, you journey to a cathedral for services, and you walk into this. Solid stone rises above you, taller than anything else in the entire nation, taller than anything you have ever seen. Light in colors you could barely even imagine before stream in like the light of heaven. Pictures from Bible stories come to life in windows, shining the truth that you have heard. Everything is solid and clean and so unlike the rest of your life of dirt and mud and plants. And then the music starts. It's ethereal, perfect, matching, like nothing in your life. You see Jesus hanging on the crucifix in the front of the church. Perhaps a statue is nearby where you can touch his face, his feet, his hands. Even today, an experience like that is moving. Imagine experiencing it then. I mean, it would be transporting. It would be taking you to a completely different world. Like that stone building was a physical piece of heaven that you could participate in. Simply being part of this was one of the primary ways that people could experience the truth of the stories, that they could have a sense of the reality of God breaking into our world, a tangible thing they could participate in. Anyone who has been transported by the words of a song, carrying them to a place that they couldn't have gone to on their own, knows the power that art has to move us. And anyone who has stood on the mountains and watched a sunrise knows that God, too, is an artist. Henry Nouwen wrote an entire book on the meaning he found while studying Rembrandt's painting, Return of the Prodigal Son, in conjunction with the scripture. And art has been a recognized and important part of Christianity for centuries. Even in the 1700s, Bach was a church organist, creating new compositions almost every week. That is the level of quality many churches had and the importance that they placed on art. And part of the importance of this art was how it was owned by the people. Cathedrals were built with local funds and often local labor. These were their buildings, their artists, their music, which showed God to everyone who came in the doors. Yes, the pursuit of art became a vice in the highest levels of the church, with corrupt popes and bishops exploiting people to build larger and better buildings with more elaborate murals. And yes, without a firm foundation, art can mislead, as the veneration of saints' images shows. But it got out of hand because it worked, and it encouraged more people to be involved in worship by contributing their own skills to it. Sculptors, painters, architects, stonemasons, window workers, musicians, even candle makers could all work their craft to the glory of God. Yet today, we have musicians, singers, and speakers in most services. Other art is not needed and often not even welcome. And I believe we are missing out because of it. Because art can communicate God's presence and God's grace to us. It can give us new perspectives on old stories in ways that nothing else can. And it doesn't have to cost a lot if we raise up our own people and encourage them that, yes, we want our churches to be full of our efforts at glorifying God in all sorts of different mediums and methods. That if we can re-encourage not just musicians and speakers, but sculptors and florists and architects, interior decorators, painters, and photographers, all to have a part in the worship that occurs in our churches, we will have a richer church because of it. Yes, art has been exploited, but so has everything else in the church, unfortunately. And we shouldn't throw it out just because of that. Because it's meaningful and it's important. Next week, I will be returning to more scriptural topics, or at least topics that we claim are from Scripture, because I will begin to take a look at how we got our ideas of Satan and hell, angels, and the rapture. What parts of those ideas match up with Scripture, and where the rest of it came from. I hope you'll come back for them. But until then, thank you for watching. Have a great week. See you next Friday.